So we all have experienced this, that you walk into a space, maybe your friend's room or your least favorite aunt, and thought to yourself, something is truly wrong here. I don't know what it is. Like, you cannot pinpoint it, but I mean, there are a lot of stuff there. Like, your eyes be like, oh, I cannot breathe. Well, turns out this happened, and it happens a lot. So in the next 10 to 12 minutes, I cannot promise, I'll try, I am going to be talking about this, oh my God, give me a break problem, and how to fix issues within a wrongly decorated space. And as I explained, hopefully you can figure what mistakes you are making and what is exactly wrong with your auntie's decor. But I am going to give you loads of information, so maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea like I have here. Let's get into it. Alright, well, when decorating or redecorating a home, the first thing, or better say the easiest, most obvious thing that many people think about is how to fill the space. This is where actually we often stumble. But I mean, why no one ever says, how about I just don't fill this space? But I get it, especially when moving into a new or renovated house, naturally you start to focus on the gaping holes of the blank space on your wall or floor, and those bloody empty areas begin to feel like they are staring back at you, almost demanding your urgent attention. So it's only natural to feel the urge to fill those voids, to decorate and make the space feel cozy, inviting, homey. But did I say every inch of it? So let me tell you the last thing first. Sometimes trying to fill every blank wall or corner with something is the mistake, because it leads to confusion for the eye. So when it comes to making a space look good, maybe just try not to try too hard. And rather than, oh, let's see how I can fill up this space to the brim, arrange things in the room in a way that is balanced. Like, check where your eyes are drawn to. Do you see everything evenly, or do your eyes just see chaos? This is why, I'm sorry, but your auntie's decor sucks, because the balance is off, and balance is all about finding that sweet spot between what is there and what is not there. You don't want your space feeling as cluttered as a barn during feeding time. But you also don't want it to be too empty to feel like a mental clinic. Just get it right. Just get it right, and it will feel nice to be in. So balance is key. Balance, balance, balance. It should be your mantra. The sexiest concept in design and decoration. Okay, so in the world of decoration and design, let's say, there is a thing called negative space. If we want our home design to feel really curated and put together, we gotta get friendly with this guy. Yes, the negative guy. Let me explain it. So positive space is the area filled with furniture and decorations in a room. Positive space is dynamic, is very engaging, and grabs our attention with its colors, shapes, textures, layers, etc. Think of this guy like the pauses in a song. Just like how breaks in music give you a chance to sort of catch your breath and appreciate the melody, no pun intended, negative space in design gives your eyes a break and lets you appreciate beautiful objects in a space. Now imagine listening to a song without any breaks. Bum bum, boom boom, it's overwhelming, right? The same goes for a room without negative space. It's like your eyes don't even know where to look at. There's just so much going on. So these two work together. How much positive and negative space we use or have in our home can make a huge difference in how the whole thing looks and, of course, feels. So the best examples are the two styles, like each of them are at the very end of the spectrum, which are maximalism and minimalism. I have talked about them separately in different two videos that you can check if you like, but if you go into a maximalist home, you see that every inch of the space is decorated. Walls, floors, lots of stuff. Like there is minimum negative space in there. So obviously the feeling that you get, lipstick is very sticky. Okay. Where was When you go into a maximalist home, there is minimum negative space. So obviously the feeling that you get there is completely different than when you enter a minimalist room where there is a lot of negative space. So the positive space is the area filled with furniture and decorations, and negative space, or the empty space, open areas, or the empty open areas in between, that gives eyes room to breathe and let us see the important stuff clearly. Now contrast happens when we balance between these two. And this contrast most of the time is the missing puzzle in your space. Too much positive space can make a room feel cluttered, chaotic, and not cool. And too much negative space in the room also make it feel empty, underdone, underfurnished, and again, not cool. So when you're thinking about reshuffling things around your home, think about the power of contrast, like bringing a little bit of this and a little bit of that within the same room, same area, makes the room attractive, interesting. And when the contrast in a room is missing is when it sort of looks off. And trust me, you don't need to be a designer to sense it. All right, so now you may ask, why should I care? That's a valid question. Technically, you shouldn't. Negative space has several benefits. At the very least, it saves you from seeing this look on your visitor's face. So apart from the whole using negative space is good to create visual balance, that whole speech. And as a matter of fact, I have to repeat it because it is actually really important. We don't want that one part of our house be like, wow, and then the other one be like, ugh. So if the balance is out of whack in your living room, for example, people will notice it as soon as they step in. So yes, that counts as number one. I mean, using negative space is good to create visual balance thing. But the negative or in-between space is what makes the room feel comfortable and harmonious. Otherwise, careless, messy, or sort of undone. So we use negative space to bring excitement and add contrast to design. And because you can tweak how much open space there is, so you are totally in control of the vibe, like cozy or dramatic, whatever it is, contrast lets you set the scene just how you like it to be. Then we also use it to highlight the best parts of a room and to get rid of distractions from the nice piece of furniture, decor, or architectural features, and sort of make them stand out. And honestly, without an empty area, even the coolest piece of furniture gets lost in the shuffle. And I'm totally not cool with that. I want every item that I own to feel special about themselves. So sometimes we use negative space to sort of showcase one or two objects, but in other cases, we also can use it as a tool to de-emphasize whatever features that you don't want to draw attention to. And those are mostly architectural features, such as awkward setbacks in the wall or short ceilings, ugly or cracked tiles on the floor or wall. Negative space can actually help to create the illusion of a larger space and more spacious room. Then you also can create different zones within a room by leaving some gaps and negative space around the key areas like pathways. This one is a simple thing that can be done when it comes to functionality that will help to make sure people can actually move around the space without any issues. Okay, so this is not the funnest part, but if you want to have a decor that looks like a designer did it, you should think like one, because designers typically don't randomly just throw items in a space. It may come as a surprise to you, but they actually look at a few factors before deciding where to place items. What I would suggest, since you asked me, is to start by looking at how your room is already set up and how you move around in it, and get that right first. Like, we definitely need some negative space around the areas where people walk. So look at your room. Doesn't matter from where. Just stand up or sit down. I don't care. And look at your place from wherever that you usually see that place from. Like 87% of the time I am glued to this chair. So I sit here and look at the whole place from where I'm sitting, from this angle. So you do the same. But if you don't have a designated spot in your house, that is totally fine too. Just check the room from the entrance or where your guests usually sit, assuming that you are not a socially deprived individual. When you see it from that angle, you might just notice a spot that if you empty it, you could make that awesome thing that you want to show off look even better. Or quite the opposite. If you fill it up or just like put some stuff in that area, it will look even more harmonious. So make it the focal point. Like if you want to hide that part of the furniture that is damaged, or you don't like that awkward angle, or what is the thing that you are not the most proud of when you look at your house? Is it an architectural problem, like a part of the building, or is it a piece of furniture? So find the problem first, and then you can solve it. Take attention to every nook and detail in your room and play with negative space. So you don't have to take the whole house down, really. You can make little changes with only a few little items in your house, and boom. So the goal is that depending on the situation, you either have to bring attention to things or take it away from them. Okay, so I guess this is the part where you expect me to help you fix your issues within your house. Fine. As you know, hopefully, each space has its own set of challenges and requires a unique solution or combination of techniques or different strategies. The examples that I'm giving might not directly apply to you, but they're basically general tricks that are going to give you ideas on how to fix issues that are very similar to the ones that you might have. So I trust that you are able to identify the problems within your space, but after you have figured out the issues, it is time to get your hands dirty and try some of them. They're fun, they're experimental, nothing to be scared of. Just try and create negative space that your room needs. Alright, so let's start with the layout. Sometimes you just need to change up the usual arrangement of the furniture, such as the traditional coffee table and sofa setup that you see in the photos, and go for a different configuration or different setup that creates the negative space that your room needs. And I'm not just talking about having less stuff, but more about making room for special things that make your room unique. For example, in this room, the attention is on the fireplace, a beautiful architectural feature in the room. Whereas in the other room, the fireplace is lost, and that bloody big oversized sofa has taken up all the useful real estate. I know it feels sort of a bit uncomfortable when you're used to a setting, and yes, sometimes it'd be better if you just got rid of some items, but you really don't have to if you don't feel comfortable. But if you did, having fewer items might seem strange at first, but oh, does it make your room feel cleaner, balanced, and more relaxed. In some cases, you might also need to get rid of solid cabinets, especially those in darker colors, because they can make the room look smaller and potentially cramped. And this also includes creating some breathing space in a display cabinet by leaving like an occasional compartment or shelf empty. So the negative space here directs the attention to the pieces that you want to be noticed, in contrast to this one that there is no breathing room for the eye. It's just like too much. What's going on here? What am I supposed to be looking at? This one, look, the display unit itself is bulky. Then there is barely any interesting piece on display. To the eye, the whole thing is just a bulk. You don't notice one single object. It's just like waste of both visual space and real estate. Now, let's tackle a common disease that even I regrettably find myself suffering from sometimes. So many of us find it very hard to resist a blank portion of wall. But when every inch is covered, it's like our brain goes into this overload, and as a result, we don't really notice individual objects. Not that there is something wrong with it. Some people like it that way. I know, I get it, I understand. But if you go for this style, you need to expect that your favorite items will get lost and they actually don't get attention that they deserve. In maximalist homes, you can notice this very much, very often, that they create tons of positive space to make bold statement with layers, colors, and patterns. Remember my video on maximalism? That is what is it's all about. On the flip side, homes decorated in a more minimalist style are excellent examples to see and sort of practice utilizing blank walls because they actually pay serious attention to negative spaces. Yeah, I know, ugh, ew, but let's give them credit for this one. By the way, you don't have to fully commit to minimalism to sort of appreciate the benefits of negative space. You just need to be strategic. That's all I'm asking. And let me say a word about the plague of having too many cushions that crowds the sofa. And oh my god, that this one is so close to my heart. Like, I am one of them myself. So I get it. It is very tempting to dress up sofas with cushions, but sometimes less is more. It's really hard to accept, but looking pretty requests. So the bulk of objects throws balance out, but don't focus too much on the bulk of objects only. I mean, different pattern and colored objects can easily take a space out of balance because they actually block the visual clarity and organization in your space if you are doing them excessively. And I said excessively because obviously I am not saying don't use any patterns or colors in your space, which is wrong because they are so pretty and I love them and I adore them and I use them all the time. But just use them moderately, like with your diet. Just remember, use them moderately. And remember the cushion dilemma? The good news here is that you can still have some cushions or have as many as you want. That's none of my business. But keep them simple. Like use basic patterns or plain colors instead of patterns. That is all I'm asking. You can have as many as you want and that is none of my business how many. But just give your eyes some rest, okay? We can also create negative space in our room by using white, especially when there are clashing colors around. And it's because generally, like what I said about brain overload, white does the opposite. It calms the eyes and creates a sense of emptiness even with objects in the area. Like in this photo, by no means is this space a minimalist, but see how masterfully they have used white, and while there is a lot of objects in the room, you don't feel like you want to run away in the opposite direction. So the colored and patterned cushions not only don't bother, but they are very pleasing to see and have added interest into the room that I absolutely adore. Another effective trick to create negative space is by using clear glass furniture and decor because they allow the eye to see through them and they sort of blend with the surrounding and they make the space feel more open and airy. Glass vases, for example, are perfect for busy areas. I think they add sophistication and they're fancy. I like them. So if you can really get rid of your furniture or the room is small or there is wallpaper on the wall, just try and leave at least one big portion of the wall blank. Just don't hang anything on it. Nothing. Just let it be. And this is such a great example because it shows how incorporating a glass coffee table and the color white can create negative space, while the furnishing around, like everything around, remains beautiful and practical. Honestly, there are many other strategies that we can use to bring negative space in our decor, which it takes practice, but one thing's for sure, there is a big difference between a curated negative space in your house that looks intentional and that dusty, empty space in the corner of your room that, a bit like the part of your brain reserved for your ex, feels neglected, forgotten, empty, and desperately in a need for some redecorating. The way that you make negative space look deliberate is by making it deliberate. Let me know what you think about today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!